Again, Cory, great to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on.
You bet. So before we hit the ground running with your work, I always start with this question to get things moving. 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing all of our lives. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Ooh, yeah. So, I mean, I was like everybody else, right? I remember watching TV and when it really hit was when NBA canceled a
Yeah.
game or something like that. And you're like, oh wait, this is real. And the day before, I was having a meeting with somebody in Italy, and so everything in Italy was happening a little
Yeah.
bit sooner, right? They'd shut down the streets. She said you can get arrested or something for like going out and just like going for a walk without permission. So it was really strict. And so that's when like the magnitude all started happening. We had young kids, school, daycare, everything was shutting down, and we were scrambling. My wife at the time was an ICU nurse, a trauma ICU nurse, so she was just right in it, and I work from home. And I was terrified I was going to lose my business just because I wouldn't be able to work. Um, I think like so many other people, like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get work done? And I think, and not to generalize here, but most people who have a job or who work with someone or work for someone else, there's an understanding that everyone's in this together. So even though it was incredibly strenuous on people, um, there was you weren't necessarily worried you were going to get fired because COVID happened, right? And again, I'm painting that with a very wide brush. I know it was really hard on a lot of people in different situations, but I think for anybody who owns their own business or is self-employed, um, that was really scary. You can't not show up for work. What's going to happen? Who's going to? No one's paying your bills if you don't show up for work, right? So, and I remember speaking with other entrepreneurs who are in similar situations. But like you do when you're an entrepreneur, you figure things out. And like so many other people, you just figure it out because the answer is never, okay, well, I guess we just throw in the towel and it's like, no, okay, let's figure it out. Let's figure out what to do here. Um, Even during part of COVID, my wife did her master's degree. And we were like throwing everything on our plate at the same time because we weren't going to wait to do it. And so we did it and we pushed through. Really positive attitude and really resilient attitude. And this lends really well to the work that I do. Um, Helping people show up at their best, especially leaders and high performers, but show up at your best, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, and not just once in a while, but consistently. I live by my work. It's shaped my life in a tremendous way. And so it wasn't easy, naturally. It wasn't easy for anybody, but I will say that we got through it very well, relative to not COVID, let's say, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We were very fortunate that we were able to just figure things out and piece things together. Daycares did open. Sometimes we had a little bit of help with our other son, just based on my wife working in a hospital and things like that. So there were a few extra things that were maybe available to us that weren't available to other people. But yeah, it was. We were happy when it was done, for
Yeah.
sure.
Uh-huh, for sure. So let's get into what you do for a living. You basically have a mental gym. And to
Yeah.
explain being the leader of that gym, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds at career day. One of the kids wants to know what you do for a living. How do you explain your job?
Yeah. So, I mean, think about going to a gym for your body. Everyone's familiar with physical fitness, right? The reason you go to a gym is to get healthy and strong and feel good and age well and all the reasons that we exercise and that we take care of ourselves. Well, it's the same thing for our minds. Our minds impact everything in our lives, how we think, how we make decisions, how we behave, our results, our relationships, how we perform, how we lead. I mean, you name it. It's coming from the way that your brain works. So the way we want to prioritize our physical fitness, we also want to prioritize our mental fitness. And if we'd go to a gym for our bodies, then we go to a gym for our minds. It's the same idea. You're not lifting weights and you're not running on treadmills or doing anything like that. You're not sweating, but you're thinking and you're upgrading how you think and how you make decisions and how you behave. You're doing it in a group environment with other like-minded people, growth-driven people who want to show up at their best too. So there's a real great energy and connection that happens with that. You're not doing it alone, you're doing it together. You've got your trainer, your coach guiding you through your workout. All these workouts are structured and planned workout programs designed to help you take these concepts, integrate them into real life, be mentally healthy and fit so you're showing up at your best, also consistently developing as a person, as a leader in a way that resonates, not woo woo, not like typical corporate leadership training either. But we talk about everything on a scale from 1 to 10, and nobody here wants to be a 7, right? They want to be their 10. They want to show up at their 10, and they want to do that for themselves, and they want to do it for everybody in their lives and everybody who counts on them, their teams, their families, their communities. So how do you help people show up at their 10? Well, it's not the kind of thing you do in a one-off, right? It's not a workshop. It's not something like that. It's same with physical health. You're not going to go lift weights once and say, I'm all done, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
It's a practice. There's a compounding growth that happens with that. So yeah, you get it. We do it all live online, so you don't actually have to physically go, just like this, just like we're doing right here. You hop on a call with other like-minded people. Your trainer takes you through the workout. You do that 1 hour a week, and you're gold.
Wow. So what did you want to be when you were a kid? What was your dream job?
Oh, great question. I don't know that it was a dream job so much as my dad was a lawyer, and I really looked up to my dad, and I loved the way he would challenge me to think and think differently. In fact, a lot of what happens in Lyceum was birthed with that process of really challenging how you think. So I think I just assumed I was going to be a lawyer. I wouldn't call it a dream job, but it was something that I thought I was going to do. And as I got a little bit older, that changed. It didn't appeal to me as much as it once did. I grew up playing hockey and loving hockey, and I considered kind of marrying those two and becoming a hockey agent for players. Um, there were I think a few maybes, but I wouldn't say I had a dream job. It
Yeah.
wasn't one of those like, oh, I'm going to be an astronaut or I'm going to be, that wasn't me so much. It was more like I knew the thing that was important to me was trying to figure out how to realize my potential, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was less tied to how and more tied to why it mattered so much, and then being open to the opportunities to explore that and discover it.
So besides your father, watching him as a lawyer and getting all of that, whether consciously or subconsciously, what were some other seeds that were planted into you that has eventually led you to training leaders and to help people get to that 10?
Well, it goes back to quite young, especially as a teenager. You know that feeling that you've got potential, and what do you do with it, and how do you tap into that, right? And again, that scale from 1 to 10, I wanted to find out what my 10 was, and that was so important to me. But school doesn't really help you do that. School might help you show up at a 7, potentially an 8, more people around 5 or 6, but certainly not your 10. So that was on my radar. That was something that was very important to me. But the other thing was, my mom suffered from mental illness when I was growing up, and I didn't recognize it when I was younger, and maybe it got worse as I got a little bit older. So as a teenager, especially into my late teenage years, it was pretty evident. My mom was it was getting worse and worse. Um, it got so bad that when I was 21, my mom took her life. She took her own life, and it was it was brutal. It was a
Yeah.
really difficult time, naturally, and it was also a scary time. I was
Yeah.
scared that her condition could be genetic. And what if it was? What do I do? Just cross my fingers and hope for the best? Like that didn't seem like a strategy. Um, can I wait and maybe if things start to go bad, then react to it, take a reactionary approach, kind of crisis management type of thing? And unfortunately, that's how so many people think about mental health and approach mental health. When I think about it as being mentally healthy and fit, kind of being at the top end of that scale, the common way of people thinking about mental health is it's something I will address when I crash or when crisis happens or when I burn out or something like that. And we really need to change that narrative. We entirely, but I can talk about that for a long time. Um, so the third option was to be proactive, to get mentally healthy and fit. I was I was looking at my mother's situation, and shortly after that, my father's situation too. My parents weren't together at this point, but still, I believe my father triggered some things in him. What everything that was happening with my mom, and this began his spiral into drug and alcohol addiction as well. And so that was incredibly difficult. Especially because I looked up to my dad all these years. Like he was my guy. He was my rock. I I modeled myself after him, right? He was my role model, and I was so I'm going to turn out like my mom. I'm going to turn out like my dad. I was scared. And so I decided I needed to be proactive. And at the time, I was a psychology major, And I just started connecting some dots, upgrading how I thought, how I made decisions, how I behaved. Never any giant changes, all like micro improvements, a little shift here, a little adjustment there, a little improvement here, and just connecting more and more dots. And over time, people really started to notice. They're like, what have you figured out that we haven't figured out? I was working in a really high stress, long hour environment. I actually used to be in the restaurant and bar business many years
Wow.
ago. And I'll be the first guy to admit I didn't know a ton about food or drinks, but I just had a knack for bringing out the best in people and building great teams and cultures and things like that. Um, and I just handled the stress so well. It didn't really affect me that much. Anxiety, burnout wasn't even on the radar, and people were really noticing this. You're so happy, you're so calm, you're making decisions under pressure all the time, um, I'll admit that at the time I was kind of taking it for granted because the process that I had been developing really felt so organic. It was just this thing that kept developing and developing. But over time, I had some mentors who were saying to me, like, you've got to be sharing this with other people. You've cracked the code on something that people need to know about. And so I did. It wasn't actually until my first son was born, about, well, he's almost 10 now, that I felt this need to do something with it beyond myself to do some good in the world. I remember that feeling right in the delivery room when my son was born that like, holy crap, I'm responsible for this now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like one, I hope I don't screw up this dad thing. I hope I do that okay. But the other one was I want him to grow up in a better world. And what does that look like? And I can't just ask other people to do the heavy lifting, right? How can I contribute? And I realized that I had something here that could contribute to that. And so that's really got what got me started in doing this as work and not just for my own benefit, sharing it with other people. It actually started with high potential high school and university age students who also wanted to realize their potential. How can I be great? Like I want to help you be great. So that's there was also a thinking of who's going to change the world for my boys. It's this next wave of leaders and high potentials. And I also would have killed for something like this
Yeah.
growing up, right? Like I was really speaking to a younger version of myself.
Uh-huh.
And I loved it. And just over time, getting to see the remarkable improvements in these students from grades, resilience, self-esteem, relationship improvement, self-care, stress and anxiety were dropping dramatically, burnout. And you're talking high-performing kids who were teetering on burnout. All that was gone too. And just the work continued to evolve. You work with different types of people, high-performing student athletes and teams and educators, and eventually people in their businesses, teams, leaders, and organizations, and so on. Uh, like many businesses, and things keep evolving, and the mission keeps progressing, and then it starts to take form of the gym, and um, and that's what led us here.
So the thing about what you're doing too is you have to keep on top of things. It's an ever evolving, ever learning process.
Of course.
How do you do that every day to continue to learn and evolve, to do your job at a high level, take care of yourself, your family? When that alarm clock goes off, what's the energy?
In the morning, like first thing in the morning.
Well, just yeah, to keep maintain that energy and to do all of these, the juggling act and to do it well.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people can relate to it. You got a lot on your plate, right? It's tough. You got young kids, you got work, you've got everything else you're trying to do. Both my boys play hockey. I'm very involved in that, competitive hockey. And I mean, first thing I do every morning is get up, drink a big glass of water, and meditate, and then start to stretch, and then exercise, and then get the boys ready for school, and then eat breakfast. And like I start my day early, but I want to get all this in to start my day off right. I've got some mental practices that I do as I'm meditating and things like that. Gratitude practice within there, setting intentions for the day, just some things to really prime your brain for success for the day. Big fans of that. Sleep is a big one, right? You got to make sure you're getting your sleep in and prioritizing sleep. Diet, again, like just simple things to take care of yourself. I'm not, so I know some people are really strict on a lot of things when it comes to, say, diet and things like that. I'm not. I eat healthy. I'm not obsessed with it. I'm a big believer in find your own sweet spot of what you can maintain and sustain. Because if you're gonna, like on New Year's, people are like, okay, I'm gonna cut all sugar out of my diet. I'm gonna join the gym 5 days a week. It's like, but it never sticks.
Yeah.
It's too much. So how can we just grow incrementally? How can we make these little improvements that do stick? And eventually you recognize Once you integrate the science of habit building and the proper processes and environment, but you can build some remarkable habits that last and don't feel like hard work. They're just a part of who you are. Um, so that's a big part of that. But also my work. I mean, I get to spend all of this time designing workout programs for members and for organizations and doing the work myself, living it, not just preaching it, right? It's not just theory. This is all very much lived. And I'm such a believer in the importance of this work and it's seeing how it impacts so many other people at a work level, at a personal level, at a home level, and a community level. It's doing the same thing for me in my personal life. And so I'm fortunate to have a lot of great mental tools and skills and habits and mindset at my disposal to tap into whenever I need. That keeps me going, that keeps my energy up and strong, and keeps pushing forward.
So let me ask you this. Who has been that inspirational force that's allowed you to evolve and navigate to find your place right now professionally?
Professionally, I don't know that I can necessarily distinguish professionally from personally, which
Yeah,
is strange,
sure. The
right?
Venn diagram. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I will say it was very much my parents growing up because before things started to go downhill, they were fantastic parents. I'm incredibly fortunate. Had two wonderful parents. They loved me very much. They had their issues with each other, but they had kind of split up and gotten back together multiple times. But they were great parents, and they always challenged me and they held me to a standard of, here's who we believe you're capable of being. My father was a lawyer. My mother was a therapist. So I think um, that Venn diagram that you talk about, I could see myself right in the middle of it.
yeah.
Um, and I'm inspired by a lot. I'm inspired by my kids and who I can help them become. I'm inspired by some people who are really doing inspirational things in this world that are striving to make things better, even if you don't agree with what they're working on or how they're doing it, but they're striving to evolve humanity in a way and make the world a better place. And I find that admirable. I'm inspired by people who show up great. I really am. Or people who dedicate themselves to showing up at their best. I'm inspired by a lot of the people I get to work with. They're amazing people, and they really genuinely care. And they put in the effort, and they show up, and they inspire me. So I think I draw inspiration from a lot of different people.
And I think one of the cornerstones of what you're teaching people is how to be a good leader. And
Yeah,
leadership is a part of having a good culture and environment. And I remember growing up, we would hear speeches from presidents, not this one, but
yeah.
others. So there was these
Other
examples,
presidents, yeah.
yeah, other ones. There was been a lot of examples on national levels and just, I mean, people throughout history. What was some of the early people that taught you leadership, whether personally or on a larger scale, that kind of set a template and a blueprint for you?
Honestly, it was some of the ones who weren't very good at it.
Right.
And I remember back to like your summer job as a teenager and you've got a manager. And what was I doing then? Like as a camp counselor, or then working in a back shop at a golf course, cleaning clubs for people and things like that. And then getting my first restaurant job when I was 20 years old and working in these different environments with these different types of managers and leaders. And you get to really recognize if you've got your eyes open and you're paying
Yep.
attention, these great qualities that some of them have that you're like, if I ever get to lead like in that sort of capacity, I'm going to be like that. And then a lot of ones who are like, I would never be like that. I would never treat people that way. I would never handle things that way. And I started to, I didn't sit there like writing it all out, but you're making like a mental checklist.
Hmm.
And so when I had the opportunity to take a leadership position, like an official leadership position in the workplace, I went through this checklist of this is who I want to be and this is what I think is so important. So I'd say I learned as much from the inspirations of what I don't want to be as I did who I do want to be.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So let's say you have a dream tonight. You ran into the 18-year-old version of you, ready to go out into the world and change things.
Yeah,
And you had a big coffee table book of the life that you've lived up to this point, that you've
yeah.
orchestrated, and you handed it over. Would that young version believe your life turned out this way?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I wonder if that younger version would say like, I feel like we should be further ahead by now. Like let's right, let's accomplish more things. Let's do more. Let's push harder. Yeah, I think so because again, I look back at this and I don't think there were any any giant leaps that were made. There are certainly moments you can look at where you say, okay, that was a pivotal point, that was a pivotal point that are a little more obvious, but the process being much more um, gradual and organic in that way. I think absolutely, because some of the things that I was very intentional about then, um, I continue to be intentional about. So I don't think 18-year-old me would be surprised in that way, but yeah, potentially like, yeah, a little shot in the arm,
Yeah.
maybe. Like
Yeah.
I could see that.
So let's veer off a little bit off of this, the last question. Of everything that you've done and evolved to, what are you ultimately the proudest of?
Being a father.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll tell you why. And also my relationship with my wife, because I wasn't good at this when it started. And I remember my last relationship before. I don't think I ever worried that that I wasn't going to figure out being a dad, because my dad was a great dad when I was growing up. I had a really strong role model there, and it was always important to me. I knew from the time I was young I wanted to be a dad and that I wanted to get married. That was important to me too. But I will say with all the love and appreciation to my parents, I had a much better parental role model than I did role models of marriage. Um, and in my last relationship before I met my wife, I actually remember when we broke up, we were having our breakup conversation. It's kind of like the exit interview when you're leaving a job, right? It's like the same thing. And she said to me, "You were a good boyfriend, but you were not a great one." And she wasn't trying to be mean. She
Right.
was telling me the truth. And as soon as she said it, I knew that it was the truth. And I immediately started reflecting on, you're right. And this isn't good enough. This isn't good enough to have the kind of marriage that I want and the kind of life that I want. I had to work really hard at it. I know that some like my best friend, that guy's just a rock star with this. You know, like he grew up with three sisters, so maybe he's got a different perspective on that. I grew up with a brother and you know, a different perspective there too. But I look at him and just the way he always had so much confidence in his relationships, and especially the way he shows up as a husband. Like there's someone I admire, my best friend.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, I noticed how many things were fine but not great.
Yeah.
And it's just this continuous process of being intentional and setting up relationship rules that I really try to follow um, as perfectly as possible. I don't love the word perfect, and it's a really tough measure, but to hold yourself to a really high standard of things like honesty and building trust and treating each other with respect and communicating so effectively and consistently, like these to me are these like foundational rules that even someone like me who's like, how do I do this? You can follow those rules and it covers 80% of the success of your marriage. And so I'm certainly proud of that. And I'm definitely proud of being a dad and looking at my boys and who they're turning into. Um, and then I think there's just a lot of other things that are like extensions of that. My work, absolutely. It's all very much related to me.
Yeah.
Um, Seeing the impact on other people and the way they get to impact their teams and their families and all of that and their communities. I'm so proud of that. Um, Even hockey, like coaching my boys' hockey teams, I'm so proud of that too. But again, I feel like it's all one thing,
Yeah.
and they're just extensions of each other.
Totally get it. So everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients,
Yeah,
colleagues, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
that's a big question.
Yes. That's a therapy
Um,
question.
who do I think I am? I want to try to answer this without saying what I think I am,
Sure.
you know, without the labels. I think I'm someone who cares deeply about who he can be and who he wants to be and why that's so important, not just for myself, but for other people. I'm someone who inspires and loves inspiring people to be their best and show up at their best and help them do that and do it consistently. I'm someone who believes in what we're capable of on a greater level, on a societal level, and wants to do whatever I can to ensure that we realize that potential. Um, I'm somebody who loves other people, but also loves my time to myself. I can't be around people all the time. I definitely need my alone time and my recharge time. I'm somebody who's incredibly optimistic. I wouldn't say toxically positive or anything like that, but very objectively optimistic. Um, I'm somebody who's very resilient, and that's been taught through real life resilience building. Now I feel like I'm just listing things that are coming to mind. But yeah, I think I'm someone um, who thinks that and believes deeply that who you are and how you show up matters, and it matters a lot. And if you take that seriously and enjoy it a whole lot along the way, um, you can live you can live a great life.
What a great answer. So the next step here, the most important part of this, how can people get involved, get their brains in your gym and get a better outlook on things? How do they join?
I check out our website, yourlyceum.com, yourlyceum.com. If you want to know a little bit more, book a call,
Okay.
talk to a real person. That's a great way to do it. If you happen to be on LinkedIn and you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, I don't hang out on social media much, but on LinkedIn I tend to be around there.
Okay.
So that's a great place to connect. And yeah, just find some time to talk, learn a little bit more, see if it's for you, see if it's for your company, and then if it is, getting started is super simple after that.
Sounds good. I will put all these links in the show notes. Cory, what a joy. Thank you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out. Great story. I appreciate it, man.
Joe, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Best of luck.